right, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, February the 20th. Like in all of our prior meetings, we're streaming the meeting live on our City of Madison YouTube channel. You can also view it later. We will begin by rising, bowing our heads, and reciting the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll get into tonight's business.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, Council.
Josh Wilbur, who is attending remotely.
Present. Present.
Thank you.
Bartlett,
Here.
Storm,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Datillo has an excused absence, Krebs,
Here.
and Teveno.
Here.
Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from February the 6th? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is a presentation of petition, memorial, remonstrances, or introduction, motion, and guess. What I'd like to do now is read a proclamation from Governor Holcomb with regard to EMA Appreciation Week. This is from Governor Holcomb. It's an executive order proclaiming that emergency management agencies are a vital public service to the communities of Indiana. And whereas every emergency begins and ends locally, such as the COVID-19 pandemic or other natural and man-made disasters that affect Hoosiers in all 92 Indiana counties. Whereas emergency managers help draft disaster response plans, organize trainings that include first responders and other community partners to practice response plans, draft plans that help minimize the impact of disasters, work with state and federal agencies on assisted programs, and find the most effective methods of disaster recovery. And whereas it's important for Hoosiers to recognize the dedication and accomplishments of these highly trained professionals, now therefore, Eric J. Holcomb, Governor of the State of Indiana, does proclaim February 19th to 24th as EMA Appreciation Week. And I wanted to echo the Governor's remarks in his proclamation. Thank Matt True and everybody in the Emergency Management Agency. I want to thank all of our first responders, police dispatch, EMS, firemen, all of those who are working really hard to keep our community safe. Without them and their tireless efforts, our community certainly would suffer from their absence. We certainly have experienced our share of disasters, fires, other emergencies, and anyway, we owe them gratitude. So I want to thank them, and I shared this with Matt True earlier today. All right. Moving on to resolutions or bills.
First is Mike here. Resolution number 2024-4C, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, approving the interlocal agreement with the Madison Port Authority and the Madison Railroad. Whereas an interlocal agreement has been developed to further the mutual interest of the City of Madison Port Authority and the City of Madison Economic Development Strategies and Management. On February 12th, 2024, the City of Madison Port Authority approved the interlocal agreement attached as Exhibit A. Whereas any annual payments per the interlocal agreement shall be deposited in the Economic Development NRO Fund 2997. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the City of Madison, Indiana does hereby approve the interlocal agreement and supports the duties and responsibilities outlined for the purposes of economic development.
introduce Tony Steinhardt, who is one of our advisory members of the City of Madison Port Authority.
Good evening, Counselor. As you know, we have, I think a couple weeks ago, our Executive Director of the Madison Railroad made a presentation to you showing how busy the railroad has become, the growth that it has had in the last 18 to 24 months, the jobs that have been created, and the more of those activities are in the works. As a part of that, the railroad operations need some assistance as well as more expertise as it relates to economic development activities and putting together the documentation associated with those deals. As a part of that, we've worked with the Madison Port Authority and the Madison Railroad to develop this interlocal agreement to give them assistance in developing the economic development support that is needed to continue to move and grow the railroad. We're excited about that opportunity here. It's a very similar relationship we have with the Jefferson County Commissioners, and this will allow us to add some additional support that we've been needing to help grow not only Madison, but the railroad and the county.
And with that money, will you be hiring an additional person?
Yes, we hope to be hiring some additional staff.
Okay.
It'll be investment in economic development. We need additional resources there. If you remember when we transitioned economic development from JCIDC to the city, it was basically staffed by one person. Then we had an associate, and that we still have only one person, an associate, and you can see how many dozens of economic development deals that we're doing, and also taking advantage of the Ready Grant program that's now in its second life cycle. All of that takes a lot of resources, plus the project management. So these funds, and we're very grateful for the Port Authority working with us, because that relationship is really important. We've been recruiting, as Adam had mentioned or presented a couple weeks ago, rail-centric businesses, and we're certainly using our railroad to attract other industry or other business from the existing industries here. So this is a good opportunity for us, because it's an investment that the Port Authority is making likewise in the city of Madison to generate additional resources.
And I remember one of the large deals that we put together in the last 18 months was the transload facility on the hilltop. It's getting ready to grow. We're adding 3 additional lines. Road and Rail's signing another agreement. We've got a couple other business interest in railroad, business rail-centric activity in the works. So we're really excited about the opportunities the railroad bringing to the city of Madison.
The next steps after this would be to come back to council and create the position and appropriate the money for that new position. I don't think we have more than one associate in our
No, we had 2.
in our salary ordinance. We do have 2.
Oh, we do it now? Okay, we did
So
at
if
one
it
point,
requires
so.
it, that'll come back to before we spend any of those funds.
Other than the railroad, are there any income-generating activities under the Port Authority's umbrella? Or is it all pretty much railroad?
It's pretty much all the railroad. It's railroad-centric at this time.
I didn't know if any of the stuff with the steamboats, or not steamboat, paddle boats that come by.
No, that's
Does that fall
all
under them?
separate.
Okay.
Yeah, none of that activity falls under them. It's primarily been set up as the Madison Railroad as an operating body. The authority has other opportunities to do other things, and that's something that we've been having conversations in and around some economic development strategies with the board about future opportunities and diversification of that authority into other revenue generating activity.
Okay.
So we're looking for tonight is a motion to approve resolution 2024-4C, and then we can execute the agreement with the Port Authority.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2024-4C.
I second that.
Okay, we have 2 seconds and 2 seconds. Any discussion? Comments or questions? Oh, a roll call, please.
Josh Wilbur. Bartlett.
Yes.
Storm.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Krebs.
Yes.
And Tevenoff.
No.
council. All right, moving on. Council, are there any reports, recommendations, or other business from the standing or select committees of the city council? Hearing none, we'll move on to reports of city officials. So I'd invite Tony Sorrells here. We also have some other guests from our street department, and that would be Mark Warner, who is our chief mechanic, and Ken Washer, who is our TSO manager. So as we get into tonight's business with regards to the second reading of ordinance 2024-2, Tony's going to give an overview of the street department, and then we do have a presentation for tonight that we'll share up on the screen after Tony speaks, and then we'll invite Mark and Ken Washer to give some remarks, and then we'll open it up for discussion on that ordinance. Good evening,
Good
Tony.
evening. Good evening, council. Each of you should have a 23 year-end report up there, and I'll go over it real quick. Tons of garbage picked up by the city, 3,076 tons. Tons of garbage that Rumpke took out of our TSO, 11,022 tons. Compost brought into the compost yards, 285 tons. Tree branches, logs, 930 tons brought in. We picked up 183 tons of leaves this year. Recycling, 538 tons. We collected 81 tons of metal. And Jefferson County brought in 1,723 tons. So far on our snow events, we've been lucky this year. We've driven 3,300 miles, put in 332 man hours, and used 300 tons of salt. Some of that was for our brine system, but 300 tons.
300 tons before the brine, before it's added to the water, or?
No, that's it's a very small amount that we use for our brine making. So,
Okay.
you know, it's just hard to say. It's not much at all for the brine. Any questions? All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about our trash. I became street superintendent 9.5 years ago, and up until that point, the only thing I knew about trash was I put it out in the morning, I came home at night, and it was gone. I knew nothing else what happened. After taking this job, it didn't take long to figure out what all's involved. Real quick, we've got from the hilltop in downtown, we've got 4 different areas. We pick up one route Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that's, doesn't matter if it's below 0, it's been storming all day, or a heat index of 105. These guys are doing it day in and day out. You know, most people don't think of that. You know, at your house, if you break a glass, you know, what's most people do with it? Throw it in the trash. You know, you break a plate, throw it in the trash. You know, you don't think about this stuff. I had a guy 2 weeks ago got stuck with a needle. It's not the first one. I had guys, and a lot of these guys are running when they hit the ground. He grabbed a trash bag, and it was probably had 30 pounds of cat litter in it. Pulled his shoulder out. You know, guys get cut. You know, feces. You know, baby diapers, adult diapers, urine. When one guy got splattered with something, we don't know what it was, immediately just broke out in a rash. You know, he didn't come back the next day. You know, I don't blame him. It's a hard job. I got 2 guys here tonight. Jordan, Hunter, stand up. These guys pick your garbage up. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It's picked up. It's picked up. Most people don't think of it, just like I didn't. It's a nasty job. Least paid, hardest working guys in the city. out there all the time. So, you know, if it was, you know, your son, your grandson, I would hope that you would like to make the job as easy and safe as possible. You know, when these guys get stuck, they're scared. You know, you can tell by looking at them. They don't know what's going to happen. We rush them to the hospital, they run some tests, come back in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see what's developed. You know, these guys are worried about that stuff. You know, if anybody wants a firsthand example of it, I mean, I can clear a spot for anybody to come out and ride that truck one day. Summertime, maggots, you know, it's not a fun job. I got any questions? And one other thing, we have the number of how many million pounds we pick up in the city?
In 2023, it was 7.5 million pounds of trash and recycling from households only.
Okay. For easiness on math, say I've got 7 guys. You can do the math. That's what they pick up a year. I don't have 7 guys. I've got 5 guys, so it's more. So, I mean, think about it. We're asking for $2.54 a month more.
A week or more.
A week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, we've not had a rating. We've had 3 rate increases in 40 years. That amounts to like $5. I mean, like the mayor said, Mark's going to talk about our equipment. I mean, you know, we want to go with these tipper trucks. Much safer, much easier. You know, the guy brings the can, like these cans here, he sets it in the back of the truck, pushes a button, it empties it for him, sets it back down, and we take it back. Reduces the risk of getting hurt, wear and tear on your body. I mean, man, 40 years, it's a long time. That's all I've got. Anybody got anything?
Just echo your sentiment. It is a very tough job. I did it for myself for a while, and it's cold riding back of that truck in the wintertime, and it's hot and smelly, especially in certain areas in the summertime. So appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah, I started in June, so one way I knew it was a rough job. I got around these guys when they come in at the end of the day, and man, they stink. They
Yeah.
stink.
You didn't shower in the morning. You showered at night when you got
That's
home.
right. Yeah. All right, that's all I've got.
So stick around because obviously we're going to spend the rest of the evening speaking about ordinance 2024-2. There are no bills on third reading. Joe, if you want to introduce ordinance 2024-2, then after he does the introduction of the second reading here, we'll get into the purpose of tonight, and I'll give a bit of an introductory remark, and then we'll go through the PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll get to Mark and Ken Washer, and then we'll open it up to public comment.
So on
Do
second,
I use the mic there?
on second reading, we have ordinance number 2024-2, and that is an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, repealing and replacing ordinance number 2023-10 regarding garbage collection.
Okay. Let's go through the PowerPoint now, and while she's teeing that up, what we have on display here are 4 sizes of containers. These are the options that we'll give residents to choose from unless they already have a garbage truck compatible container. And then remember, you know, the whole purpose of this is to make a long overdue investment in our transfer station operations to make it safe, first of all, to improve or create economic sustainability. Right now it's in a deficit. It's accumulated over $1 million of deficits over the course of the past 7 years. The majority of that started with COVID. And then the third thing is efficiency. We're still operating the garbage collection operation the same way we did in 1985 when this service was created. So we're long overdue for upgrades, and if we can't get this done, then our choices are going to become pretty limited, honestly. It'll be curtailing service to match the revenue, or doing what many other communities have done, and that is go to a third-party service. And we've got some examples of what that costs other residents in the Madison and Jefferson County area. But let's go through the slide presentation. What is the transfer station operation, as it says here? And also I want to mention as we get into this, a lot of this information was put on our website. It was circulated through social media and has a lot of answers to your questions. It's got the draft ordinance, it's got the rates. It has information in it about the modernization plan and so forth. So a lot of that is residing on a project page on the website, and we can toggle over to that if we need to. It also has the financial projections if we need to go to that. But transfer station operation simply is collecting household and commercial refuse, either curbside or processing at the transfer station operation. And remember, it's all being collected and then taken to the transfer station operation for processing. It is then collected there by Rumpke, is who we have the contract with, and they remove it from the containers there and take it to process as recycling or process into a landfill. In 2023, the city manually processed 7.3 million pounds of trash and recycling from households. That doesn't include what Tony referred to earlier, the difference where we had over 11,000 tons of trash processed through our transfer station. And over the last several years, garbage collection has gone up about 14%. How's the TSO funded? It's funded through the $9.85 rate that we currently charge. That was put in place in 2013. It was only the third time since the TSO was created in 1985 that rates had been only modestly increased. If you look back through all of the ordinances and the minutes, and you see the discussion that prior councils and mayors had, it was always about the difficulty of financially sustaining the transfer station and the household collection operation. What we're asking for is an increase of $2.54 a week, and that will accomplish our goals of safety, which is new equipment that eliminates the manual handling, adopting standardized containers, bringing the operation to economic sustainability, so there's no more future deficits that have to be funded out of a general fund, which isn't allowed, and then the efficiency, adopting new practices to administer the household and commercial trash operations. Again, right now it's all being done manually and by paper, but there's lots of things that we have to do regulatory-wise to report and get permits. Adopting new technology is a must, as well as, again, the safety aspect of it. As you can see here, there's 3 of our sanitation workers up there after they just dropped off one of the runs from downtown. This is a timeline. This is also on the website. That is the creation of the transfer station operation in 1985 all the way to 2024, which is the present. And you can see those 3 years which are in green. Those are the 3 times in which the original rate of $5 was increased. One year they raised it 50 cents. In 2013 it went from $7.50 to $9.85, which is where it's been since 2013. We are losing approximately $6 plus per month for each of our 5,000 household customers we're collecting trash for. Next slide. Keeping our community clean is a year-round job, and it is really, really hard. It's hard because it's hard work. As you can see, the curbside pickup includes trash, recycle, compost, large household items, which we come to your house to collect, leaf pickup. That's the curbside. Those are the curbside services. If a third-party service was providing this, you would mainly just get trash. So all those other services would not be performed. At the transfer station, all items listed above are accepted. We're also we're processing them for disposal, preparing them to be collected by Rumpke, which also has an order to it, and it's open 5.5 days a week. We are proposing that we extend hours on Saturday because we know that's a really busy day, or throughout the month or throughout the year pick busy days for heavy trash and then accommodate that at the transfer station. Here's an example on the left. Up on the top is bag trash that was put out. And this happens all over the city, where we are having to go pick up the bag trash off the roadside and the litter that's created from it. Our ordinance does stipulate that the trash should only be put out within a certain time of its pickup. Often that's not followed. And then you'll see here pictures of a typical recycling area. And then there, the other picture is somebody putting trash in and abandoned furniture on the sidewalk without stickers that we have to go remove. If you'll toggle over and play the video on the right-hand side, that's on in an alley, and you'll see the hard work that these guys are doing every day. Of course, you can see all the manual lifting. Those happen to be light bags. But you can also see just how unsanitary the area is kept because of the way trash is collected and litter. And that's right off of the back of someone's patio whose that trash doesn't belong to. Is Tim here? I know. So that's an example of trash collection there. Another slide, please. This is on the left, if you'll click on that. That's Mike Hinthorn doing the route where he's going around picking up either trash that's been abandoned or hopefully it has a sticker on it. And for $5, we'll come to your house and collect it and pay for Rumpke to come and dispose of it. But that's a short video showing that. And what this is really demonstrating is the amount of investment that's required just to pick up that couch. You have to have a CDL driver, a truck, a container, you have to have the lightning loader equipment, and then it has to be transported over to the transfer station, and we have to pay Rumpke to come and get it and remove it. That's just to pick up one piece of furniture, because I know that some of the comments have been, I want to just pay for a bag that I deposit. There's too big of an investment to do a per bag charge. The other two pictures just show orderly storage of trash. The ones up on the right-hand side, you'll see they've already got garbage compatible trash containers. Down below, one is recycling, the other one very orderly, unlike the pictures we showed you earlier with trash on the street, trash on the sidewalk, unbagged, and then creates a tremendous amount of litter. Play the video on the left, and then I'll talk about the pictures on the right. There was some concerns about, well, I don't want to bring my trash or can't bring my trash to the curb. These guys know these homeowners very well. They're always working to collect the trash. But you can see here, he's probably lifting 50 pounds or more over and over and over again all day. The two pictures on the right are just to demonstrate how hard we work to keep our community clean. In the last 2 years, we've managed over 900 nuisance cases for people who are not following our trash ordinances. Next slide, please. There's other areas besides the household collection that we also have to pick up and keep clean, and that's all across the city. This is just an example that there was some brush and other wood items at Heritage Trail Park that we collect, and then all of the debris that washes up from the river when it rises, that has to be collected in order for us to have a clean riverfront and a clean community. all of those costs, the reason it's up there, all of those costs get imputed into our cost of operation, which then gets imputed into how much does it cost us per household who is sharing in the cost of keeping our community clean, as well as removing refuse from their households. Play that video, please. Many of you have probably been to the transfer station. I'm not sure if you've been there after we've picked up one route in downtown. I think that was Chief Washer, I heard.
No, that was Steve.
Oh, that was Stevie? Okay. Yeah. Video on the left, please. This is Stevie, who he's just talking about, and that's his job all day. That Kubota is not heavy enough to process some of the trash, particularly when we get a load of shingles, roofing shingles. And the other images are just pictures of what's at the transfer station, and the picture on your right, that's what your recycling looks like when it arrives at the transfer station. Many communities require sorting. We don't. It's sorted after it's picked up and taken to the recycling center at Rumpke. Approximately 15 to 20% of what's in that pile there is trash. It's not recyclable. That translates annually probably to about $10,000 to $15,000 in cost to the city, because that's not sorted. It gets sorted, and we're paying double the processing rate for unsorted recyclables as compared to solid waste. Here is the mountain of compost, and you'll play the video on the right with Mike again with the lightning loader. Again, something as simple as compost, you can see what it's like when it's accumulated, and much of what's in there is large logs, tree trunks, that has to be ground up and disposed of. I think, Chief, you indicated that you think there's about 3,000 tons in the compost yard right now that has to be removed?
After we grind this year, there will be over 3,000 tons that we have to remove.
It literally is a mountain of compost. But what many cities do is they only come during certain times of the year. We're making routes all the time, every week, to keep our community clean. And then here's the challenge. A lot of people put their compost in the gutters, and then it rains, and then it clogs up the gutters, and then it backs up. There's a whole cause and effect with our behavior, which is why we have to be very diligent about keeping the city clean. Why are we proposing the rate increase? As indicated, in 2020 was really a pivotal year. That was COVID. That was the year where the DOC crew, which is very inexpensive labor the city had been relying on for years to keep its costs down, that went away and became more traditional with regards to you can see them weed eat and picking up trash, but they're no longer riding on the back of a trash truck. We had to hire 6 people, which basically almost doubled the amount of people that were in that group. There's only 12 people in the transfer station operation to begin with. From there, in 2021, we had the flood. We had special programs to collect all of the debris, and it was millions of pounds of trash that we collected, as well as abating trash charges for recovery relief. And then in 2022, we went through a similar process like this, but not as extensive, on the water project. It had been 15 years since the water rates had been increased, and we had to do a multi-million-dollar investment to keep clean drinking water flowing across our community. And then last year, we started addressing the rate structure with rates at the transfer station while we performed a rate study for the household rate collection. So we're increasing the rates in order to, as I mentioned before, make the right investment in the right equipment to make it safer for our employees, and also operate above break even and bring efficiency to the operation. There's also a significant amount of deferred maintenance on the transfer station operation itself. Mark's going to talk about the equipment, and Chief Washer's going to give a little bit of additional perspective on this operation. Collection rates of surrounding areas. It's not the Bermuda Triangle, but it is a triangle just reflecting what other communities from Madison to Scottsburg up to North Vernon charge. Madison is at $9.85, and for that you get curbside trash, recycling, and compost. North Vernon is $17, trash only. That is from a third party. Scottsburg is $1 a bag. The mayor there indicated that they will be changing that system in order to make it safer and automate it, which is what we're doing. Telegraph Hill area of Madison, $33 for trash only per month. Hereford Lake area, hope I got that right, Joe. $30 a month just for trash, no recycling or compost. Hanover is $17.50. That is with the third party. Austin self-performs, and they are at $16.50 for trash only, no recycling. Quotes we've received for curbside trash and recycling, around $30 a month. So what we're proposing is to increase the rates from $9.85 to $20, and then have gradual increases over the next 5 years to make it economically sustainable, but to invest in the equipment and the transfer station operations deferred maintenance. That will save us money in the long run, because if we don't do this, this community-wide program will fail, and our choice will be a third party. And we already have examples of Best Way and Rumpke operate in Madison, and you've seen them. They use the large container there. They empty that container and they move on. They're not picking up your litter. They're not picking up your recycling. They're not coming back for your compost. We follow them actually and clean up the alleys and areas where there's been litter dropped all across the road. So that's just a comparison. The fact that we're at $9.85, which is a fraction of what the other costs are, and even going to $20 is still a good value with superior services. Next slide, please. These are the proposed rates. That was also on the webpage. It was we advertised it in the newspaper. There are two breakdowns there. We gave you the rate for each of the years all the way through 2028, beginning at $20 a month for household collection, April the 1st, and then also modifying the transfer station rates for trash that's brought there. So anyway, you'll see that is very rates, but same approach there. We know one thing is true, that our costs go up every year. Our cost for labor goes up, our insurance costs go up, our workman's comp claims and insurance for that go up. There's built-in escalators with Rumpke. So our fuel increases happen every year. And that's why we have to adjust our practice, but also adjust our behavior of how we manage a community-wide trash and recycling program. Next slide. Modernization plan. Here, as I mentioned, it's new equipment that makes it safer. It is replacing old equipment. Mark's going to go through that. He's going to talk about how old a lot of our equipment is. It's repairing deferred maintenance at the transfer station operation, and it's also repaying the loans that we have to help fund the deficit from last year. There was $300,000 transfer from the water department to help us get through 2023, knowing that this plan was going to be presented in early 2024. Here's some pictures of current conditions: broken asphalt, broken concrete. Again, really unsanitary conditions for our staff up there. Can't see the picture very well, but on the right, those are support beams below that are actually holding the compactor containers above it, and those beams have corroded completely at the bottom. Next slide. This is the steel girders that's holding up our scales and the transfer station shed as you come through there. There's been no maintenance or repair on that for decades. This is an example of just the manual aspects of it. That's on the left. That is the reader for the scales. There's no automation to the scales. You just get a number, and then the receipts have to be manually prepared in quadruplet, then brought to City Hall for the actual administration work. I will note that we did not pass along any of the administration costs into the rate. That's still being borne. That plus the management is still being borne completely by the street department, rather than putting those costs into the rates. Next slide. And this will give you an example of the container choices. But let's play the video up on the right-hand side. That'll show you what a tipper truck does, because there's been some concerns. Well, how do they operate? We have narrow alleys. Hopefully that'll play. Here we go. Is there a volume on that, Mindy?
City of Washington has historically operated a refuse collection operation for the citizens of the town.
Perhaps the TV, if you have their TV remote.
Like the actual collectors themselves would pick up trash from individual residences and then load them manually on back of trucks. This limited the size of the containers for this operation. Also made it very tedious and really labor intensive, which obviously caused injuries. So working with our insurance carrier now, we found that there was a grant possibility for us. It's called a safety grant. We determined this was a good opportunity for us maybe to purchase trash tippers. Those tippers would then in turn increase the level of service of our refuse collection, because each
that's an example of the tipper for the back that's lifting this weight instead of Jordan and Tim and Hunter and all the other guys that are literally physically harming themselves. And it also eliminates the biohazard. Just after we had introduced this ordinance, we had an incident with another employee who was handling the trash out of a container, was stuck with a needle, and there was human waste in there. We also have a person on workers' comp leave right now because of being injured, being near the truck during its operation. So it happens. And then, as you mentioned, there's Tony had alluded to turnover. It's a very difficult labor environment, and I'm not sure we'll get very many volunteers who want to do this grueling work that they have to do to keep our community clean. Next. Anyway, so that's the end of that. Now I'd like to introduce Chief Washer, who is the TSO manager, come and give some remarks with regards to this operation. And while he's setting that up, we've put a lot of time and thought into this decision. There is a sense of urgency. The status of this operation was declared an emergency in December, and it is. It's urgent. We've put more effort into justifying the $2.54 week increase than anything we've done. The increase to the water rates from over a 15-year period that we adopted in 2022, it had a 900-page report to it that was available for people to review, but nothing like this. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, we actually operate two entities up at the transfer station. We are permitted by the state of Indiana to operate the transfer station and the compost yard. We have to be permitted for both of those entities, and we are inspected at a minimum of once a quarter. The transfer station, which you're probably most familiar with, is comprised of a scale house, a set of scales, and what we call the tipping building. That's where you saw them dumping the garbage and things like that. That building has had zero major repair since it was put in. Now let me give you a little background. The transfer station was started in '83. '85 was the first year that it went in. The floor did have to be replaced up on the tipping floor because it got down to metal and they couldn't even push the garbage in the containers into the compacting machines. The compacting machines have recently been replaced. However, we do not own those. Rumpke owns those. Rumpke maintains those. Our lease is part of our per tonnage charge on those machines. The biggest improvement that we have made at the transfer station in the past 40 years is we added on to the concrete on the rear of the structure where the 42-yard containers used to sit, and we have now went to 53-foot trailers on 3 of the machines in an effort to keep the cost per ton as low as we could keep it, and that is because Rumpke is making less trips to haul our garbage. So they did give us a substantial break in that, but we did put a recycling machine in. I say we provided the concrete, Rumpke provided the machine. There again, the machine is still Rumpke's property. The problem with that was we didn't have the money to enclose that. It is outside. So in the wintertime, the machine wants to freeze. Causes us a lot of problems. In addition to that, that big chute that is now outside instead of inside, and those of you that have been to the transfer station know what I'm talking about when I talk about the chute where the garbage goes. That acts like a big rain funnel. Guess where it goes? In that 53-foot trailer. So now the driver has to hook onto the trailer, swap it out, put the empty on, then he pulls over there to the hillside beside the transfer station, the tipper room, and he lets the water drain out of the trailer for half hour, 45 minutes sometimes. we have drained up to 10,000 pounds of water out of one of those trailers so that he can go down the road, because he would have been grossly overweight keeping all that water in there.
And we get paid, we get charged around $1,600 for each one of those
Yes, we get charged by
containers
the
that
load.
he's removing.
We get charged by the load on the recycling.
Yeah.
We get charged by the ton on the garbage. So we live and die by tonnage up there. The Mayor touched a little bit on how we do the process up there. Ladies and gentlemen, the process hadn't changed since 1985. We handwrite a ledger keeping track of each vehicle that comes in. We then write in that same ledger, we write their inbound weight, we write their outbound weight. Now we handwrite the 5-part ticket that we hand them. There is no automation there. It was upgraded one time when they very first opened the transfer station. They used to measure the loads and go by cubic yards. They found out real quick they were losing their rear ends because the formula they were using wasn't right and the loads were too heavy. So that's when they said, we've got to get a set of scales. The set of scales were there were not even new. They're used. We bought them from Rumpke. They were mechanical scales. They have been upgraded to load scale sales, but they still need to be a lot of work. They need to be sandblasted and painted. The fence up there, as you can imagine, it's 40 years old. It doesn't even look very good. There's been no major upkeep up there for 40 plus years. The mayor alluded to, we have some I-beams that in the basement. They are load-bearing I-beams. They actually hold up the back wall of the tipping building. The webbing has rotted completely through on those. The I-beams for the walk-in door to what we call the shed room, which is where we keep the loader and things, actually rotted through, so we actually bolted big L brackets to the floor and to the door frame to keep it in place. So it does need maintenance on it. The concrete, we are required by law to capture all the rain runoff that comes off the tipping floor and around the machines in the back, and it has to go to the sanitary sewer. Our concrete is starting to get to the place where that's not going to happen, and that could be a problem with our permitting. It has been noted, but we have not got into a position yet where we have got written notice on it. It's been verbal so far. Again, the drain up front is starting to break up. We've repaired it the best we can in-house, but when it was put in by hand with short sections of angle iron with a grading, and it's starting to concrete's deteriorating to where the place that the concrete's falling out. So we're basically putting a piece of pipe in, filling that section of the ditch up. Getting to the compost yard. The mayor alluded to, after we grind this year, we've got over 1,500 tons back there to grind. The grinding bill alone will be $25,000 plus. Now that's just grinding it. That's not getting it off site. The hauling of it, since diesel fuel has went through the roof and everything else, the hauling of that went up astronomical. My boss, Tony Sorrells, worked hard here a few years ago, and we got a company, I believe it was over around Austin, Crothersville. They actually come in, we had to load it. In fact, I went up and done most of the loading, but he actually paid to haul it. Since then, they've had other people get on board and do the same thing we have, and they're not as interested in our compost now. So we're gonna have over 3,000 pounds back there we have to move. Right now, before we grind, you've got 200 to 300 semi-truckloads of compost back there to take out. And what that's gonna cost per load, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, but it won't be cheap. It will not be cheap. So between the compost yard and the transfer station itself, yes, there's things up there that really need attention. Mark's gonna allude to the Kubota that's up there. A little bit bigger piece of equipment is probably needed up there to do what we do. scales could definitely use, we need some automation up there to help us out. A printer that prints out the weigh ticket where we can print it off would greatly speed up things, because right now we are hand doing everything, and that takes time. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. We want Mark to come up and talk about, status of our equipment.
Unless they have some questions
Unless they have
about
any
it up
questions
there.
for Ken.
Kenny, I have a couple questions. What is the cost of a CDL license, and how difficult is it to find drivers to replace those retiring?
It's very difficult to replace drivers that are retiring. CDL license now, you have to go to school to get. I believe it's about a month or so, and it's probably $3,000 to $5,000. A lot of your CDL drivers can go right across the river, or not even across the river, locally. You get a triaxle drive, tow truck driving job for $26, $28, $30 an hour, depending upon their experience. So it's hard to replace CDL drivers. And it's hard to get your license now. You can't do it the way we used to. Put a guy in there, get a permit, and put him in, let him ride, and let him drive with a CDL driver, and then you took him up to someplace and he tested out. No, now you gotta go to school. And if you drive an automatic, you're gonna have an automatic restriction on your CDL. That's the only thing you're allowed to drive. You won't be allowed to drive a stick truck. It's a lot different than it used to be, a lot more restrictive.
And Deputy Mayor, I believe that video mentioned workman's comp. What do we pay annually for workman's comp?
We just renewed for $122,000.
Thank you.
Kenny, do we still allow residents or whoever to come up and pick up mulch or compost as mulch?
We do if they'll sign a waiver, so we don't have to pay for termites around our house when they put it up against our house, because it's not treated. We will do that if we're on site. We don't make a special trip of it because, number one, we don't get very much call for it at all. Some people like it for their gardens, but we won't load 2 semi-loads a year out of there for the individual.
There's no interest
and that's by pickup truckload at a time. Naturally, they don't have a semi.
But just no interest from people to come get it anymore?
Very low, very low. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And Mark here. There we go. Welcome, Mark.
How you doing? I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. You guys got packets, I think. I'm gonna go over is the garbage truck life cycle. Based on an 8-year cycle plan, our trucks normally run about 1,400 hours a year. 1,400 times 8 equals 11,200 hours in 8 years. That's the conversion for the hours to road miles is 60 miles an hour, 11,200, 672,000 miles. That's this formula was given to us by Cummins, which is all our trucks have Cummins in it. If we go down right now, we look at through that equation, our current trucks. The truck that was listed a while ago, you've seen a lot of, had ribs down the side of the bed, is a 2001 Kenworth, and it's what they call a Heil 4000 body. It's a little bit different than our newer trucks. They're PT 1000s. They have a smooth side, but the current mileage on our trucks, the old truck like we had has 150,000 miles, 995,000 miles, 16,212 hours, which equivalates. Do the formula. I know everybody looks at the mileage and say, well, that's not that many. Well, when you equivalate the hours that the truck is operated, it's 972,700 calculated miles. The next newest truck is a 2012. It's a recycling truck. It has a green label on the side. It's got 94,162 actual miles, and hours on it's 11,743, which calculates to 704,580 calculated miles. The next newest truck is a 2014, 89,000 miles, 213 miles, and 15,150 hours, which equivalent to 909,000 calculated miles. That truck has been, we put a new engine in it in January 23 at a cost of $32,000. We did it in-house, so if we'd had to take it to a shop and had it done, that'd probably been somewhere 45, probably, that's a guess. And the last truck, which is the newest one, is 2018. Put the truck number down. 2018. It's got 60,000 miles on it, and 58 miles, 8,708, 781 hours on it, and it's got that calculates to 526,860, and that is a 2018 truck, and it's 5 years old right now, and we're well over half our life cycle of 8 years. The next page, I've been here since January 1993, and if you look at all these equipment that we've had, purchased, operated in the whole 31 plus years since I've been here, that's including the loaders, and an explanation of why we got rid of it or what we did, transferred it or moved it. And that's just an overlay of that.
Mark, you want to talk about the bed replacement? Because part of the plan is to buy a new truck.
Yes.
But also take an existing truck with chassis.
Yeah.
And put the bed on it, which will save us from buying the entire new truck.
Yes. The truck that he's alluding to was actually the 2014, which we did put a new engine in, and the transmission was rebuilt probably 2 years prior to that. But the bed is in pretty rough shape, and the tailgate area of the truck had failed on us last year, I believe. I can't remember. Yeah. And just right after we done the engine, and we had to put $11,000 in that, I believe, off the top of my head. But garbage truck to replace the existing trucks is what we got with no tippers is about $199,000. If we put the one with a tipper on it, it's $207,000. We also looked at a 60/40 truck, which is half recyclable and half garbage. Those are $460,000. And then Python, which is the automated truck, fully automated, picks trash up from the side. Those are $400,000. So obviously, to go down that route is a substantial investment, and it makes sense. But the reason, like the mayor alluded to, the one truck has got a new engine and a transmission, so it's feasible the chassis is good enough to handle another bed. So at that is $135,000, I believe, and where a new truck is $207,000. So you can see the responsibility at that fashion. And the other truck, and we have the old Kenworth is a backup truck that when one breaks down, we have to put it in operation. So we work on it, service it, yada, all that kind of stuff. Yada's not a good word. Then, let's see. If you got any questions, I'll answer them. I'm probably better at answering questions than I am talking.
Well, thank you for that, because it was just to demonstrate that, as you mentioned, 3 of our 4 trucks, and 2 of them greatly exceed the average useful life. Mm-hmm. And then the newest truck is already over half of its useful life, and we're 5 years into that, owning that. And so if we don't invest in our equipment, the expense of it, if we don't invest in it over time, and then now you have to make a multi-million-dollar investment all at once, that's what's creating all the rate disruption, is because we have not been setting aside any capital replacement funds. In 2013, the plan was then to set aside $100,000 a year to a CapEx that would have generated $1 million of funding for replacement items. Nothing was funded. So this plan actually, beginning in 2025, starts funding a capital expenditure or CapEx fund so that we can start replacing equipment out of cash flow rather than borrowing money to do it, or substantially increasing rates when you have these bumps. So our plan stabilizes this, gives us money to invest without borrowing in the future. This is similar to what we did on the, when we updated the water rates. And we've also included in this ordinance that council has to look at these rates not longer than 5 years. So the times where the can would be kicked down the road 10 or 15 years or 20 years, hopefully this council and future councils and mayors will be responsible, take the responsible approach, and we have to deal with those costs as they are rising rather than subsidizing and then coming back in and say, oh, I gotta raise your rate by $10 a month. That's a shock. Everybody's accustomed to annual increases due to inflation or costs, but we've got to have a better approach. Our behavior and our users' behavior have to be in sync to make this a sustainable program going forward, and we have to invest. Mark, do you see any other approach? I mean, do you see it viable to continue to postpone investment?
No, because it's either this or privatize, honestly, because we're down to we need a bed on one truck, and that will buy us time, and then we replace the truck, and then there's a projected future as we roll down the future, to roll the chassis into a possible snow truck operation, which saves us money in that, because a truck is anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 now, and a snow truck is about $135 to upfit. Time you buy the chassis and put the bed on it, and all that kind of stuff. And that's looking at it. That's not Cadillac and stuff. That's kind of bare minimum stuff. So,
Mark,
yes.
on that 2014, how many years or how much time do you think that bed has left before it's just not usable?
Well, the one that we're recommending replacement on, who knows?
Understood.
But when we put the $11,000 investment in the tailgate, that was just to get it functional again. And at that point, they were saying, you're on borrowed time. So the bed is rotting out floor, the holes. It's got holes in the floor of the bed where the trash is carried, where they was seeing it being ejected out of the floor. That bed's got floor. The ceiling area where the tailgate comes up, there's a ceiling area right there. That's got leaks there and rust parts. So the substructure is starting to fail, and it's a domino effect from this point, if that makes sense.
So if we do replace that bed, how much more lives do you think you're going to get out of that?
There's a good chance we're going to get 8 years.
8 years.
If that makes sense, because we got a new engine. There's nothing really wrong with the chassis. I mean, there's going to be the normal stuff, brakes and tires and service, but.
What happened on the transmission and engine on that? That's pretty early replacement before, right?
The transmission, we lost third gear, I believe, if I remember right, and when it went to third gear, it went to neutral, so it couldn't. And then the engine, we had a water leak internally. Probably had a cylinder wall giveaway or a piston.
Is the recycling truck still in decent shape? Or has it?
Probably what would happen, I'm speculating, so.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
Once the new chassis comes in after the bed's replaced, that truck it's at, the 2018 would roll to the recycling truck, and then the recycling truck could be the backup truck. And then the 2001 would be cycled out or moved to another operation or whatever, or sold.
You mentioned backup truck. Our interlocal with Jefferson County to accept their trash at our transfer station also includes being a backup in case the truck they have is down, and that's become operational many times, and that's what we use our spare trucks for, is to back up the collection in the county when the county has a malfunction with their truck. So our investment is, goes beyond just city residents, because it is part of the overall plan to accept and process trash from Jefferson County residents as well as those who don't live in Jefferson County. We're processing their trash too at the transfer station.
And is there a scheduled capital plan for these truck replacements or repairs yet?
Yeah, it was in the original plan that I gave you. In fact, if you want to, we could probably put it up there, but yes, there was
I saw
what we are
something.
doing in 2024, so we'll, assuming the rates getting increased, we'll come back with a financing plan that will capitalize the new investment that we have to make. That will also then allow us to order the equipment for 2024. And then we've got the age of the equipment in there, because we didn't talk about the leaf backs or the
No,
Kubotas.
no.
Those are 30, 35 years old pieces of equipment. Maybe spend a minute on that. So all that's gonna be happening over the next 5 years. We'll be replacing it, assuming we can, what we're trying to avoid, honestly, make the investment so that this equipment doesn't malfunction at a critical time. Where then we're gonna incur, as they mentioned, a $50,000 expense or a $12,000 expense. That's what's been happening because of the age of our equipment. But talk a little bit about, everybody wants their lease picked up. They can't wait. We pick up, what Tony say, over a million, I don't know,
1.83 tons,
1.3.
1.83.
Gina's trying to give me sign language back there.
Sorry.
But she's
18.3 tons.
183 tons of leaves itself, and then that's just the leaves, but we're also picking up all that compost too. So talk about, remember, we're chipping a lot of that as well.
Our 3 leaf vacs are, there's a 1989
There it is right there, Mindy.
and 2 1994 leaf
little
vacs.
small, but-
They're 25 yard, and they're triaxle trailers with a diesel engine on the front and an impeller fan that sucks the leaves up out of the curb. We use them at Regatta Parade, so everybody sees that. The kids love them. Kind of makes me nervous when they get close to the tube, because I've seen it take shoes off people, so that's why it makes me nervous. Yeah, shovels out of your hand. We got 2 lightning loaders. We got a backup, which is a 2004. Don't have the hours and stuff on it. I apologize for that. But the engine was rebuilt 5 years ago, and the approximate cost of those, I believe, is $150,000. I'm not positive about that. So that's the big third arm that Mike Hempthorne drives around and picks up furniture and limbs and the whole 9 yards. Changed that operation for us back when we went to it in 2004. We used to run a chipper, 2 guys at a chipper, and they picked up limbs and they'd run it through and all that kind of stuff. Kind of helped with the composting of the yard up there. Nothing to do with the big limbs and trunks and all that kind of stuff that we pick up on the riverfront and out on the streets. But it definitely cut down on injuries that we had operations through the chipper. Face slaps, getting tugged towards the chipper, and that whole nightmare. But that's the things that's not really talked about, that's incorporated into this whole trash program. The leaf pickup, the limbs pickup, and sticks and twigs and compost bags and that all 9 yards. So I think it's a forgotten entity that it's been incorporated in a fee that nobody wants to talk about, that's basically given to you for free. So, and there you're sitting with $300,000 worth of equipment to do that for a free service. Like leaf vacs is a free service. So the whole composting program is free. Technically, it's not free, but it's under the blanket. So if that makes any sense.
You got 3 other trucks listed on here. Are those we still have those trucks? The 87, 90, and 97?
Oh, no.
Those are
That was basically the trucks that's been purchased since I've been employed. Bottom line. That's, when I come here, the 87 and the 1990 was garbage trucks of operation. They were smaller trucks. Then we went to a little bit bigger. We looked at going to a bigger truck, but the maneuverability we had to have for downtown is, to go any larger, is probably not feasible. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Well, you've heard from several who are responsible for managing and operating transfer station. As you can see, it's labor and capital intensive. We provided a lot of information on the website as well as the presentation tonight to give you a feel for it if you haven't seen it firsthand on what they're doing and the conditions in which they're doing it. They were there regardless of the temperature, regardless of COVID, regardless of the heat, right on the back of these trucks, taking their chances with the traffic. And it's a lot of work and effort and cost to keep our community clean. And we haven't even brought in, the cost of the nuisance enforcement, which is becoming more and more substantial because of 900 nuisance cases in 2 years. We have a backlog of work there to do, but we continue to work on it, and the difference is across our neighborhoods. Historic preservation, blight elimination, helping people keep their properties updated, our PACE program. There's incentives all the way over to enforcement, so lots happening. The next part of this will be public comment on the ordinance, although I do invite council as well. Any comments you would like to make to the public. 2 weeks ago, we asked submit questions. We did establish a community input email. We received, I would say, a handful, not very many. A lot of those were about operational things, about how the containers would work, for example. Council, you may have received emails directly from constituents. I know I'm going to be responding to the ones that came to the community input page or email address. You've probably been responding to those. I wasn't copied on the ones that you saw, unless it was just a couple of random ones. So what we'll do now is, if anybody here would like to make a statement to, let me finish my remarks.
You'll have to wait a
Make a statement to.
I'm old, and this is taking a while.
If you'd like to make a statement to the mayor or council, please state your name and address and your remark. We'll assume you've had an opportunity to review all the information that's been available to you, including the ordinance that's been available here as well as on our website and in the agendas. We'll try to get through this as quickly as we can, and council, this is your opportunity as well to deliberate before we go to a third reading at the next council meeting.
Okay, y'all. When I heard about this raise, I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious right now? Is this thing on? Julie, don't laugh at me. Anyway, now it is. I was against it because I didn't want to shell out more money. Okay? And I think a lot of people feel that way. After tonight and seeing everything they do, and I know the garbage people work super hard, and I know they need good equipment, and I think it seems like to me, Madison has been a long while in updating things, and it's starting, and I don't think a lot of people like it because of the expense. We're all going to incur some expense with updating things in this town. So I just wanted to say, I wasn't for it, but I am for it because it needs to be done, obviously. I just want to make sure that that money goes to the transfer station, the garbage. That's what I want to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go, so we can help them. Thank you.
Ms. Beeman, would you please identify who you are and where you live?
I said it. You couldn't hear me because he was talking. Debbie Beam, Walnut Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Hello, Zachariah Daniel, Oak Hill. I have a couple questions. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of the men and women that serve the city and for all that they do at the transfer station, as well as trash pickup, amongst the many other things that they do. Thank you to all of our council members. So I would like a couple questions here. Number one, how do I get the fund report for the transfer station? Not this report, but the true fund report How do I receive that?
That's a question for Clerk Treasurer. Randy.
Okay,
We can provide that for you.
perfect. And then
We'll just
also,
need, information on where to send it.
okay,
Yeah.
I can do that, not a
Yeah.
problem, I appreciate it. Also, an appropriation report for all funds, how would I be able to do that?
Those will be posted online.
Perfect, thank you. So looking
And
at,
I'll just mention too, while you're talking about that the information that was shared with council, with the public, also included 6 years of audited information.
okay,
So all of the audits are also available online, say word accounts, audits, and you can pick whichever year you want. But, so just a background on the information, it's 6 years of audited financial information. That'll take us up to the end of 2022. 2023, you'll have the operational information that you've just mentioned because we haven't been audited yet. And then our projections for 2024. So there's a lot of information out there. Is that right?
yes, sir.
Is that right? If you want to look at audits too.
Perfect, thank you. So the audit report, this report right here that's provided inside of this packet, that is the State Board of Accounts audit for 2017 through 2021.
22.
22, okay. 23 is the actual report, hasn't been audited, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That leads up to my next question. In 2017, 2018, 2019, we had, per this report that was provided, we had an ending cash balance of, in 2017, $83,000. I'm estimating here, this is. In 2018, $53,000, and in 2019, $43,000. However, in all three of those years, we carried a deficit. How is that possible if we have the money to pay for it?
We used the cash balance to reduce the deficit, and then the deficit was funded out of general funds or rainy day funds. So there were other sources of capital other than raising the rates that paid for the deficits.
Why would we carry a cash balance instead of paying deficit out of the transfer station funds? Why would we do that?
We did.
We did.
We did.
What do you mean by that?
It,
So you said it was paid out of the general fund. Is the ending cash balance not for the transfer station? Is that the general fund?
No,
Or what is
there's-
this?
The transfer station has its own fund. Any cash that was there was used for operational expenses, and then the deficit was funded out of other sources like I mentioned, rainy day or general fund.
Okay, so if I look at 2017, it says excess deficit $13,585. Ending cash balance for that year of 2017 was $83,440. So we took general fund and paid the $13,000.
No, that would, if it was only a $13,000 deficit and there was cash available, it would have reduced that cash fund balance, rather than being supported by that year's operations from its rates and charges.
Okay, so then moving into the next year, the new ending cash balance, will that be the deduction into 2018, or is that for the new operating costs?
So we calculated the deficits so that people could see what the operational shortfall was, and then that deficit was funded if there was cash balances left.
Okay,
And you can see
If
on
we
that
did it
sheet
all-
you're referring to, it goes all the way up until, we really get an inflection point to where there's no more cash left, and you have to fund it from other sources.
in 2020, I show that you had a cash balance of 23,000, but your deficit was 176, which is when we stopped using Department of Corrections, from my
We
understanding.
didn't stop using them. They
They couldn't
stopped
work.
supporting.
Yeah, they couldn't work anymore.
They stopped supporting that operation with their labor.
Okay, and
We
then,
had to hire 6 people.
okay, so, that gives me a little bit more clarification. On this, disbursement report, it also shows other services and charges. Starting in 2017, it's 321,000. 2018, 353. Goes up again in 2019 to 376. Massive increase to 423,000 in 2020. Then up again 50,000 to 483,000 for 2021. Then we do a really big increase in 2022 to 658,000. The reason I bring this up is because in 2024, your projected is $125,330 increase. What is that fund, and what are we doing with that $125,000?
The $125,000 is to pay for the cost of removing the compost that's there, and I think there were some other costs in there.
Okay, so the other services.
Those are estimates of what it's going to take to clear out the compost yard,
Okay,
and then also pay for insurance.
is compost taken each year, or is it composted until we can't do it anymore?
It
and
needs to
then-
be removed every year. It hasn't been because there hasn't been enough money to do it.
Okay. How long have you
Let me
been?
ask you a question. Are these questions that you sent to
some of these questions have been
So
directed
I
to.
would invite your council person who probably exchanged communication.
He hasn't been able to
with you.
respond to the email that I sent today,
Okay,
however.
my apologies.
Yeah, so,
Because I did not receive any of your, Mike, please, if you mind.
I-
The reason I bring it up is I didn't receive any of your questions.
okay.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I didn't know I needed to, my apologies for not CCing
It's
you
public
on.
comment. If he has questions, let him ask his questions.
So, I did email my district Joel. Unfortunately, with my work schedule and his work schedule, I don't do personal emails when I'm at work, so I didn't respond until I was off work. So I wasn't able to come down and get some of the audits that I was asking for tonight, or asking how to get tonight, which I appreciate you telling me how. And then these questions I just sent him this morning around like 1
The
o'clock.
only reason I asked about it was so we could prepare to respond to your questions.
Yeah.
Right, so you could get an answer, and there may be things I don't have a 100% response for. I'm happy to follow up with you and work with your councilman to do that.
Okay, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you. And like I said, guys, I'm
We're
not
just trying to
here
expedite this whole process. Which
Yeah.
is, this is about informing you all about what we need to do to make this operation sustainable. You've asked a lot of questions about the audits for that time period. It really, what's happened in the past, candidly, isn't a reflection of the future unless we do nothing.
Okay.
So the real thing I'd really like everybody to focus on is, what is this plan that is going to get us out of the hole that we're in and accomplish the objectives that we've said, which is to make this safer. That's 2024 and into the future.
Okay, then I do have a question for you, Mayor. How long have you been the mayor of Madison? And what year were you elected?
I was
first
caucused in with the unfortunate passing of Mayor Welch in late 2019, and then elected in 2020.
Okay, and then you ran for re-election recently, or do you go for 4 years? Is that every 2 or 4 years?
Yes, we were all just reelected beginning in 2024.
Okay, so when you took over in 2019 at the the unfortunate passing of the mayor, you then were elected in 2020?
Yes.
Okay, and then you knew the deficit in 2020 for the year during COVID pandemic?
No, not until we started accumulating the information. None of the information you have here today was ever been prepared before,
Okay.
ever.
What about the infrastructure at the transfer station? Has that ever come to your attention in your tenure? Since you've been mayor.
As I visited the infrastructure, I was aware of the deferred maintenance, and this is why you have a plan today to deal with the deferred maintenance at the transfer
In
station.
2020, the city of Madison, or 2021, the city of Madison, were they awarded infrastructure relief for the COVID-19 pandemic? Were they awarded
No.
money?
No, we did not.
Were we awarded money at any time for the COVID relief pandemic?
We received ARPA funds. We received some CARES Act money that went to public safety. And the ARPA monies that we received, that along with some contributions from Jefferson County, went to a number of things that was appropriated by council. It did not include any infrastructure upgrades at the plant, but what it did do was allow us to compensate our essential workers for the work that they did during COVID, because they never got a day off. And all that's public. You can go back and look at the record to see what's been appropriated through ARPA, where the CARES Act money went, and it all came through council.
Okay, in the video that you played here tonight, it showed that there is a grant that can be applied for. When you guys were preparing this, did anyone look into that grant, the safety grant as he quoted?
No, it didn't say that. That street superintendent from Missouri
That's what I'm saying, in the video,
indicated
yeah.
that in Missouri, his insurance company had a grant that they could get the tipper apparatus for. We don't have a grant available, and the sense of urgency here is for us to make this capital investment in the methods and means in which I've proposed to council.
At the Department of Transportation.gov, the Safety Street and Road, or SS4A grant program is available for a $5 billion grant over a 5-year period that shows available as of currently right now on Google. No one's looked into that grant.
I don't know what that grant is you've mentioned.
Who prepares or looked into this audit? Was it you, or was it staff members from your?
Myself and my staff compiled this information.
Okay. And then, in this pamphlet that you guys have prepared for us, that I greatly appreciate, it shows that we're gonna eliminate 3 swingers from the trash truck, saving us an estimated $150,000 per year in wages and benefits. It shows that swinger member trash transfer employee Washer, Perkins, and Boswell. Correct me if I'm wrong on their names. I do apologize. Sorry. Where will they be going?
You got that information incorrect. Those names you mentioned were employees that we had transferred out of transfer station operations last year as part of our first phase of dealing with the operational issues. A lot of the work that they do is street related, and so they're in our street department and paid from the motor vehicle highway fund.
Okay, can you scroll to the bottom on your screen, please, to this page? It's all the way at the very bottom, last page, I believe. No, it's not. This is the page.
I might ask you, do you have comments on the proposed
I
rates?
do, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
On the proposed rates, through the district, through people that I've spoken with, multiple people do not agree with the proposed rates. The proposed rates are astronomical at the beginning. You intend to raise it $10 this year. From this paperwork that I can find, it shows $3 next year, and then continuing until we get to 28, whatever the final number was within the next 5 years. How about separate that cost over and look at the grants that are available to us? I understand that we need infrastructure. These men and women deserve the pay that they get. These men and women deserve to have trucks that can do this. Absolutely, I would 100% agree. And I appreciate all the work that they do. However, to add cost right away that is more than doubling what we currently pay is not feasible. The fact that you've been mayor for, going into your 4th year now, and this is the first time that we're hearing about this, it's a small issue for the citizens, especially me. You presented the information. I'm going off the information you presented. I do appreciate all the information, but I do not agree with this, and I hope that Joel, I know in your email you stated that you were for this. I hope you're not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment on the proposed rate structure? No. Okay, well, looks like we have a couple of.
Mike Greco, 1106 East Street. This previous fellow, I completely disagree with. I wish we could get more services for less money or nothing. I mean, that's the way this country is, the path is going down now. We all see how that's turned out. This can's been kicked down the road for quite some time. $2.50 a week increase to have the services that we are provided is nothing. I mean, you can drink one less can of beer and pay for that. The equipment that we're investing in is astronomical. And if you don't even just look at this as sanitation, look at everything else that this city provides for zero, for nothing. That $2.50 is minuscule. I mean, you've got free concerts, you've got compost, you've got, if you want limbs picked up. I mean, go to any other city and see what you pay for. I think this is very cheap. I don't know how you're doing it for $2.50. I mean, so you get free fire service, act like that $2.50 helps pay for that. You get all kinds of things for this city. I've heard people complain that have multiple properties, and they're looking at the cost. Well, you know what? Have a business plan where your investment properties pay for that. It's $2.50 a week. And I urge every one of you council members to go ahead and pass this and get it done instead of doing like it's been done the last 20 or 30 years. Thank you.
Mike, thank you. I want to comment on Zachariah's last remark, which is, I'm glad you're here, and you were here at the last meeting.
Yes, sir.
And I have been mayor for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
I would invite you to come to more of our city council meetings. I think these were maybe the first 2 that you've been at.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of information that in business that's transacted here, because you did make the statement that this is the first time you're hearing about it, but all of this business is transacted here, and it's televised if you can't make it here. But I would just invite you to continue to stay involved after tonight.
I will be, and I do appreciate that. Unfortunately, I can't make it to every meeting because, like I said, I work. My job is unfortunately, in public service. I have a very blessed job, but I can't make it to every meeting. And I just want to say, Mayor, I greatly appreciate all the work that you've done for the city of Madison. You have done complete wonders in the city of Madison since I have lived here.
Thank you.
So no fault to you, no fault to anyone here. I just think that, we keep looking at $250 a week, $250 a week. It's not $250 a week to the grandma who's on Social Security, and her Social Security isn't increasing. It's not. It's food or a loaf of bread. It's not $250 a week. She can't work overtime. Who's paying for these cans?
It's in our capital plan, so we're providing a container of anybody's choice of size there.
And then if they break,
that's our initial investment.
okay, if
Yes.
they break, do you replace them? Or does,
They have a warranty on them, so if it breaks during the warranty, we can return it. Otherwise, it's the responsibility of the property owner.
okay.
Yep.
And have you used a tipper truck before, seen one in action in personal use?
Yes, I see one every day because Rumpke comes through the alley every day.
Okay. And when they set your can down, Rumpke, does it jar the can or break the wheels off? Have you ever seen that before?
Zachary, I have no idea.
Okay. I'm just asking because I used to work
I know.
at the county trash truck.
These containers have a 10-year warranty on them.
Okay.
and
That's pretty large warranty.
It's a good warranty.
I'm just asking.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else would like to address council or the mayor's office?
Yes. Oh, let me get to the right page. Julie Tevenoff, 761 West 3rd Street. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mayor, for all the posts you made and for listening to people 2 weeks ago. I think it was really beneficial in answering a ton of questions. And I hope that it can continue, even just if you post the agendas, even if it's just, not as important as this is. You did answer most of my questions tonight, and I really appreciate that. I just have a few questions. Will there be a reduction of men on the trucks? Will we go from 3 to 2?
There are 10 employees in the household trash collection, and the plan would include reducing that by 3 with the automation process. Our plan is to absorb those 3 in the street department if we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have attrition and turnover, so it may not be anybody that we have to absorb.
Right.
FYI.
Right. And is it my understanding that we're only gonna buy one compactor truck with a rear tipper? Is that what we're buying?
We're gonna have 2. All of them are gonna have the rear tippers. One of them will be retrofitted with the tipper.
Right.
One of the, as Mark had outlined, one of the existing trucks that we rebuilt the engine in will have a new bed put on it. So it'll be like a new truck with a tipper, and then we'll be buying a new truck with a tipper.
Okay, so the compactor bed with the tipper is gonna be retrofitted on to the truck, we could put the new
Yes,
engine in?
we will no longer manually collect the trash.
Gotcha. And it seems like, a lot of the questions and comments was about the trash cans.
Yes.
So, I'm glad to see that there's 4 different sizes. Explain to me how the warranty will work, or is there a serial number that is going to be associated with our water bill?
There'll be a serial number associated with the container and the address. So some of those process things and operational things, we'll be working out as we complete this plan. But we did want to give the community an example that, we're giving you an opportunity for more trash disposal, but also the smaller containers if fits your needs and size of your household better. So we'll continue to work those things out operationally through the Board of Public Works and Safety.
So there'll be opportunities to come to the Board of Public Works to ask more questions like
Well,
about
I'm encouraging everybody, and maybe you have already sent questions to your council person that I haven't seen. Please send them now, don't wait. Our goal is to try to address everybody's questions, and I know I've got maybe about 7 through the specific community input email address that we'll be responding
which
to.
I like that, the community.
Yeah.
I really do like that. So just the initial go around, the cans are gonna be free. And then after that,
Well, just clarify, we're spending
they're
almost
not free.
We're spending
Right.
almost $300,000 for the containers.
Yes.
They will
yes.
be distributed to each of the households if they want one. If they have a compatible container now, meaning it's garbage truck compatible, they can keep the container they have.
Right.
They can only use one container. Right, so we're asking the community to evaluate your household size and needs. As we get through the operational aspect of it, if someone wants to purchase an extra service and have 2 containers, they could do that. But we're trying to make this safer, make it more efficient,
Yes.
eliminate the manual handling and the dangers that that poses. So there's plenty of options on the containers.
Okay. Do we have a replacement cost of the trash cans?
I don't know what you mean.
So say, my sister lives up by the bridge on East First Street, her trash cans get stolen off her
Yes.
carport all the time. So
Right.
say, for example, her trash can gets stolen and she doesn't track them down, because she tracks them down
Right.
like a bloodhound. What would be that's not covered under a warranty?
Your preference, you could go to Lowe's and buy the container. We're figuring out now through operations here, if we want to purchase them and have a supply of them, which we can. The large 96-gallon one over there is around $65.
Really?
And then the price goes down below that.
For the city cost?
The city cost.
They're not that at Lowe's?
No, you probably would pay $100 for that container at
Right,
Lowe's.
right, okay. Let me see. Answered that one. Let's kind of move on to compost. I think I've asked this question before, but does the city use any of the compost for our own flower beds and landscaping uses?
I'm gonna ask those who work with flower beds, and they're nodding yes, some.
Okay. Could we not, but some, but not all of it? What define percentage
If
of
we,
some?
so excuse me, questions have to be asked up here.
Okay,
If there's an audience member, like a staff person who can answer the question, we'll ask him to come up and respond.
okay, so can he come up
Okay.
and respond?
Well, let's go through the rest of your questions, and then if there's 4 that mic can answer,
Okay.
we'll have him do it.
We don't sell it because.
But the answer is,
we have
we use
termites.
some for ourselves,
Right.
but most of it has to be disposed of. That's the answer to your question.
Well, but my question is now is what's the percentage of some?
I have no idea.
But
I don't know the relevancy of it.
I don't oppose a rate increase. I understand that we need it. Everything, has gone up. But I just wonder, has council had enough time to look at all the stuff and to, Joel, you got questions today, in an email. This is important. And even though you're saying it's $2.54 a week, that just makes it sound good. It's really $10 a month. If you put it, if you put it down to it, it's $10 a month. Which, and some people say, that's a beer or a coffee. That might be for some people, but if you're living on a fixed income or you're paycheck to paycheck, and you've already made those sacrifices of a coffee, that $10 a month to some people is a lot of money, I just wonder if we couldn't, if you guys need more time to discuss this, and I know Lucy's not here tonight, and she's my council person, I don't know why, but I really think that, that this is an important vote that's gonna affect all of us for the next 5 years. So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a public comment? Please do so. Mike, before we go on, would you like to respond to Julie's question if I didn't do it satisfactorily?
We use some
Please
of the,
introduce yourself, though.
my name is Mike Peak. I live at Madison in the 2-mile buffer zone. We use some of the compost down on the riverfront from the standpoint that it's a little bit of everybody's compost in there as far as tomatoes, whatever, and it has a kind of like a smell to it. So that would be not what we want to put on Main Street, because when it gets wet, it's like, oh, that smell. So we use a lot of that on the riverfront down there where it's not, interfering somebody's restaurant or something like that. And if you've gotten any of that compost from there, it takes a while to flush that smell through there because it just don't go away on its own. So Now, how much that is, it's several truckloads of our 550 trucks, which hold like 3 to 5 tons. But it's not putting a dent in that pile up there.
Mike, you were giving some remarks earlier, just about your trash service you have.
Okay, while I'm up here,
Yeah.
the mayor's not paying me to be up here. I'm up here as a taxpayer like everybody else in this room. And I know most of the people in this room. I know most of you guys up here. Yes, I've been on the back of the truck. I was 44 years old. I needed a job. My first job was February the 18th, -2 degrees, snowing, back of the garbage truck. So it's like, well, how hard is that? It's very hard. Like Josh and his brother Jacob was on the back of the truck. You don't realize how mentally tough you have to be. We talk about frontline workers. These guys that are on the back of the truck, I consider them frontline workers, because if they don't show up, we don't pick up the trash. So, like I said, we have a turnover rate, like my boss said. It's hard to keep somebody on the back of the truck, but like I said, injuries, backs, legs, up and down, walking, all inclement type of weather. But like I said, this will save backs, shoulders, legs, knees, whatever. So I am for it as a taxpayer, because I'm employed with the city. I drive the trucks, I drive the leaf vacs, and the thing that the mayor forgot to bring up was the street sweeper. That also goes into the TSO. And if I drive the street sweeper, which I do that also, 8 hours, I pick up about 8.5 tons of refuge, cigarette butts, stuff like that. It has to be disposed of at what cost? The city's cost. So, and that truck is several hundreds of thousands of dollars. So anyway, now back as a taxpayer, I live in a 2-mile buffer zone. I have Best Way. I pay $33 a month. I pay $30 a month for water, $60 a month for sanitation. I put my trash out there Monday morning, usually Sunday night, because if it's not out there and those guys come at all hours of the day, sometimes they break down, they come back the next day. But if I don't have it out there by that 6 o'clock the next day, they drive by and I go out there and say, hey, you missed mine. Well, was it out there? So now it becomes between me and them. But they don't come back and get it. All right? They've got a routine. They got miles to go. They're not going to come back and get it. And if it's not in that can or on top of that can, if it's on the ground, that driver's not going to get out and pick that up. All right? They're paid to pick up what's in that can. So on the other side of the point, me being a city employee, driving a garbage truck, we get it all. And lo and behold, if we miss it, it's our word against the citizen. Hey, you missed my trash. We're not going to sit there and argue with you. We're going to go get it. And you're not going to get that with a privatizing somewhere else, like he said before. We'll have to go back and pick it up. They're not going to do the job that we do down at the city. Like I said, it's like, well, okay, I've got this big can, and I got the big one. I got to wheel down my driveway, maybe 20 yards, 25 yards. My neighbors, most of them are retired people in their 70s. One of them's got on oxygen. He lives behind me. We kind of look out for one another. It's like, how they're going to get their trash cans up there. All right? We help out. We find a way. Okay? I look. I'm paying taxes like everybody else. I get my trash picked up. And I'm looking down the road. I've got trees. I got limbs. I got leaves. I don't see a truck coming to pick my stuff up. I deal with it. Now, if I didn't have a pickup truck, how do I get rid of that stuff? I can't put my couch out there in the ditch by the road. It'll just sit there. Nobody's coming to get it. I would gladly pay somebody $5 to come get a sectional couch instead of me trying to wrestle it onto a pickup truck. And it's just not me. The whole county's that way. How do those people manage? So, yeah, it's a burden maybe to some people, but you gotta think about, what about the county residents? You know, look what they do. Yeah, take it to a location, pay $50, whatever it is a year. But if they don't have trucks, how are they gonna get it there? How are these older people gonna load that? You gotta pay somebody to do it, you know. And as far as the mayor, he came in a tough time. He came in, the previous administration, we lost that mayor, he came in, stepped in, went right to work. 2020 comes around, here kicked COVID, ran right into that. A little bit later, here come a flood, he ran right smack into that. And again, we pick up all the flood stuff for free. Not just this administration, the last two administrations that I've been here, we've always picked up the flood to help the citizens. But it becomes to a cost to the city. So we've got to find a way. $300,000 in debt, whatever that number is per year, we got to find a way. You can't keep running in the hole. It doesn't work. You guys are all parents. You understand bills. Something's costing you this and that. You can't keep losing money. You've got to do something different. So that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Hello, my name is Annalisa Strickland.
And can you pull the mic down towards you a little bit? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, it's Annalisa Strickland, and I live at 129 Mulberry Street, right down here in Madison. And I'm actually, I'm not against the increase. I can certainly see good reason for every single thing that's been proposed. But my problem is actually that the proposed solution seems to be a little disproportionate as far as for a person like myself that is a single homeowner that has been disabled now since 2017. I'm on an extremely fixed income, and I don't get letters in the mail saying here's a raise, here's a raise, here's a raise, but I got about 6 letters in the mail saying this is raised, this is raised, this is raised. And honestly, I think the charges are disproportional for a single disabled person. When you consider, I have this trash can, and I could put one small bag a week into that can and put it out and make those guys stop 4 times for one little bag. But what I've gotten into, because I'm disabled, is I wait until I have the bags in the can, and if that's 4 weeks or 5 weeks, that's when I put the can out. So I'm looking at a raise of $10 a month, and I'm already paying what everybody else is paying, and I only put out 1 pickup a month. 1 can that now hopefully a truck is gonna pick up, not people. So I would really like for you to strongly consider the burden that this disproportional division puts on a single disabled person. I mean, how many of these cans will a family of 4 or 6 need every week? And I put out 1 can once a month with 4 little bags in it. So please, please try to keep it. What my suggestion would be is I would propose that a disabled person could come in with the appropriate documentation and request a waiver of an amount set by you that would be fair for a disabled person with 1 can of trash a month. I really think that it's a fair thing to ask.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
Hello, I'm Deanna Shelley. I live at 120 Wall Street. She has a very valid point, so I hope that can be worked in. It seems fair. I have just basic question. Now, does this refer to our, recycle pickup? Is it the same, so we need a can for each one?
No, for recycling, we'll continue doing exactly the way it's done now,
Correct.
the little container, or the container with the sticker on it.
Okay,
And I just want to make a point about that. You know, we're processing over 11,000 tons of solid waste and a little over 500 tons of recyclable material. So there's, again, to keep the cost low, we'll be doing recycling exactly the same way it is now.
so the next proposed increase is just $10 a month?
Yes,
And that will supposedly run a year, 2 years, what?
and in 2023, it goes to $23, and then 4% each year. Is that? I'm sorry, 2025, it goes to $23, and then it grows with essentially a CPI index through 2028. By
From
4%.
10 to 23?
No, the increase is $10.
Yeah.
Which will take you to $20. And then next year, it'll go from $20 to $23.
The increase is a $3 addition
Between 20,
to the 10.
from, in 2025, residents will pay $23 for curbside trash, recycling, and compost. In 2026, it'll be $23.92. And in 2027, it'll be $24.88. And in 2028, it'd be $25.87. Still below what a third-party service would cost just for
Yeah.
trash only.
I get that. We've
Yeah.
been very blessed.
Yeah.
But since we're doing the $10 increase now, shouldn't there be a reevaluation of the situation
We'll
before?
reevaluate every 5 years, or sooner if council wants to.
I mean, before the next increase.
Well, we're
At the time.
evaluating that now, so that, I mean, it's expensive to do this every year.
Yep.
So, we'd have to do a rate study every year. It's not common practice. We're also reversing the trend that it only happens every 15 years. So we are saying that at a minimum, it will happen every 5 years. We believe this rate study, with these minor increases each year after we make this, jump for 2024, will allow us to operate and make the investment that we need all the way through the 2028, at which time, it can be reevaluated. And a 5-year cycle would be, I think, okay.
I know our sanitation engineers are invaluable and do a great job, and I thank them. But they know that their job requires facing the cold. A lot of people have to do it, so I'm not thinking that's in the equation. It's just the job title. And,
We can't
Yep.
take them out of the elements, but what we can do is make it safer for them.
right,
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of good things, and we keep a very clean city. Thank you. And I just had the basic question over
Okay.
the
All
recycle.
right, thank you,
Thank
Deanna. Anybody else?
Hello, Derek Hughes, 411 Jefferson Street. I just had a quick question. What is the current pay rate for sanitation engineers?
It ranges between $16 and around $24, depending upon their length of service with the community.
Okay.
And our full-time staff also receive full health care and a pension.
Okay, for the
So there's
part-timers,
health benefits attached to that, all that.
yes, sir. For the part-timers, will they be getting a pay raise with this bill, hopefully?
This council's already approved our salary ordinance for 2024. We've projected increases each year, like in the past, but this capital plan does not include raising salaries above what's approved in our existing salary ordinance for anybody.
Okay, as long as the salaries are fair. My only concern at the moment.
Occasionally, we have to adjust them because this is a hard job. We have to
Oh, yeah.
work hard to attract people to do this job.
That's why I was hoping the salary rates were
Yeah.
tantamount, because you just told me they do an unbelievable amount of work. I was hoping they were getting paid accordingly.
They-
And I would like to point out, I am a little uncomfortable with the idea that there's a risk 3 of them might get laid off. I know you
Well-
said that's unlikely,
well-
especially with turnover rates, but,
Yeah, well, let me clarify. There's a reduction of 3 in that operation. Now, we're constantly having turnover and attrition. And what we've done before, like when we evaluated these rates last summer, we moved 3 employees to the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund because they're mostly doing street-related work rather than sanitation. So we're looking at all options.
So
Now,
it's
the alternative, I'll just be candid with you, I'm glad you're focusing on that because we want to preserve their jobs and the role that they play here. If we're forced to go to a third party, the entire department, other than the 2 at the TSO, are gone.
Oh, I know.
So
I have no
just-
interest in us
that's-
going to a third party.
Those are the options that have to be contemplated here.
The $10 increase for me personally doesn't bother me. It does concern me a little bit that it's gonna go up another $10 within the next 5 years, but it's not a huge concern for me, but I'm also not disabled or on a fixed income. So I'm not speaking for everyone on that. I am mostly just worried about the workers. They put in so much work, I would be worried if any of them lost their job over a changeover.
Me too. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Hi, guys. Bob Hartsaw, 806 West 2nd Street. And there are 2 items I wanted to ask about. My understanding is these containers that are available for each homeowner all will be the same charge per month. Is that correct? In other
Every
words,
household will pay
the same amount?
Same, yes.
Okay. Unintended consequences could be that the majority of householders would choose a large container. They may need a small one, but if you're going to pay for that full 95, is it gallons or 95 pounds? Gallons, okay.
Over 100 pounds.
That what we might end up with is an increase in the amount of trash that has to be hauled out to a landfill. So I urge you to address or at least consider that as a problem. And the other point I'd like to bring up is I'm very familiar with capital budgets, with operating budgets, and we reviewed ours annually, and we looked out 3 to 5 years. And in some cases, we looked out as far as 10 years. So those things were examined to see if we were within the pale. So I would urge consideration for a review or an examination a little more often than, say, every 5 years. That's up to you guys. You guys make the decisions. But I don't think it's unreasonable. I'll add one other thing. The cost of 4% is a pretty high inflation rate. Something you might want to consider. But with the various sizes all being the same price, unintended consequences, you're going to get more garbage. You're going to end up eventually hauling out more. So my opinion.
We already are, Bob. Thank you for your comments, and that's part of the issue. We're hauling a lot more trash, not because people put it in the container, it's because they put it out without a sticker, out on a sidewalk. We have lots of people using our Main Street, Vaughn Drive containers, for example, as for household trash. And whenever we have to respond like that, all these costs have to be spread across all the users. So you have to have as many users as possible to make the cost as low as possible.
But you'll have cases like Annalisa. I know other people that put out 1 can of trash a month. It seems a little unreasonable that we should just divide everything by what we need, and here's a flat fee, regardless, because people don't consume that much.
We have 5,000 users.
And
Doing
they'll
the pay-as-you-go would be very difficult.
No, but if they're all go with a large trash container and they increase the trash they throw out household-wise, your costs go up because you're hauling that out.
We were asking each household to have a good evaluation of what their needs are. There's many, many instances, every day, where the amount of trash that's put out far exceeds the capacity of the container they're using and exceeds what's allowed in the ordinance. Problem is, if you leave a bag, you get a call and you have to go get the bag. Or you leave it on the street or in the alley, or you leave it on Craigmont Street or wherever. And none of us want that either. So there's a cost of keeping our community clean, unfortunately.
Then it's basically becomes a tax at that point. It's a tax.
It's behavior too.
Well, but it's a tax
behavior because we're all sharing in the cost of those who aren't following the trash rules. That's part of the imputed cost in the rates as well. It is a community-wide service only works if you've got community-wide participation at a level that sustains it.
Well, I think the decisions have been made, but I think there are unexpected consequences here that we're not even considering. So, best of luck. Give it your best shot. It's a tough spot to be in. I thank you all.
Thank you, Bob. Bah humbug. We have a few more minutes left here. If anybody else would like to make a public statement, feel free to. Hi.
Elise Detmer, 104 East 3rd Street. I just say I support this 100%. Who wants to pay out the extra money? No one. But I say thank you to the workers. They need a handshake and a hug to do this. And to those who talk about the weather, yes, but at least they're working. They're not sitting at home saying, somebody take care of me.
Yeah.
Bless you all.
Thank you so much. One of the neighbors down the street who asked me to have a conversation with him about this plan dispelled a lot of myths because there was some misinformation out there. And while I was there, our trash service came by and she went out with cookies and Nutrient bars and frequently gives them hot chocolate and cares for those who are caring for our community. So we're grateful for that too. Anybody else would like to make a public comment? Blue line down here?
My name is Jarrett Boyd. I live at 111 East 3rd Street. I am so glad I came to this meeting tonight because I want to apologize for those bags of kitty litter that were in my trash cans. I know they were heavy and I know they smelled, but I'll never have another cat again because I hated having to clean the litter boxes. The other thing I want to say, I just feel like my eyes have been opened. We take so many things for granted, and certainly the work of our sanitation people, everything from cleaning up the riverfront to hauling away our trash every week and climbing off and on of that truck. I'm not disabled, but I'm over 80, and so my time for hauling trash cans is going to come to an end one of these days. I never had children. I always paid the school tax. If I never used the library in the towns where I lived, I still paid a library tax. We do some things for the good of the community. And so if I'm going to be paying, and I'm on a fixed income too, Social Security, but I got a little retirement. We do it for the good of the community. I can give up a couple of things. If that $10 a month is going to make me broke, I'll make my dog eat cheaper food. Maybe not. But when I'm very appreciative of what's done and how well the city is kept. And I know that if we go to private carriers, it will cost that much more. And we get so much for that $20 a month. The compost, the recycling, it's all right there, and they come right up my alley, and I have my trash cans out by the fence because I live on an alley. I don't have to haul them around to the front. I'm lucky that way. But thank you all, and thanks for having an open meeting where people can express what they think.
comment before we move on to the balance of the agenda? Okay. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Melissa Gaith, and I live at 130 Mulberry. And this isn't about the trash service. This is about, I want to know if or what the city is planning to do once the grocery store goes in downtown here, as far as the intersection that I live at is constantly people running the lights or running the stop signs, and it doesn't matter. With the grocery store, it's going to be increased traffic, and I would love to see at least some kind of red flashing light over the stop sign, if not a flashing light in the center of the intersection, like is at Second and Mulberry. Something's got to be done with this increased traffic. It's going to get worse. And, you know, I've already been up here before complaining about the issue with the traffic at this intersection. I know it's not the only one that has issues, but since the grocery store is going in, it's gonna get worse. We have a lot of foot traffic through there, elderly, kids running and playing, and it's a matter of time before somebody's gonna get hurt.
Gotcha. I don't want to, I'm not trying to cut you off at all or anything. I just want to make sure we've got a delineation in the meeting. Are there any other comments with regard to the trash ordinance?
Still on second reading here.
And I'm not trying to.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to keep everything
Let me
in order.
respond to her real quick, and then we'll just get it back on track, and that is, our chief of police is here. He's hearing your concerns. You've expressed those before. As soon as this weather warms up, we'll be back to our paving, across town. Mulberry Street's gonna do it. One of the things we've talked about too is, you know, making sure the stop bars are in place at the intersections. We do that when we do a resurfacing project. That's going to happen. As far as increased traffic, you're correct. That's been a commercial corridor and a grocery store for 75 years, so there will be increased traffic that we'll have to manage through. Hopefully it's done safely. We have experienced a lot of issues. Our chief will dedicate resources to it. But I will, as we've talked about hundreds of times before in these meetings, driver behavior is something very difficult to manage, and it's a problem all over town. And we're not there all the time, and we're not behind the wheel. Unfortunately, I can't promise you that poor driver behavior is going to continue, but we are dedicating more and more resources to MPD, and our chief who is here understands how important traffic safety is to it, so we'll have to manage it.
Well, it's not so much the management, because they're not there to see what's going on. And I can tell you that where there are the flashing lights at the intersections, people stop. They don't just run and roll through them. And with this intersection gonna be right there on the corner by the grocery store, it's gonna get worse, and I don't see why, just as a preventative measure, that we can't get some kind of light, even if it's just a flashing light on top of the stop sign, to make people be like, hey, yeah, we need to stop. I mean, I understand it's up to the drivers, but you know, something's gotta be done.
Yeah, and we all appreciate your comments. The only other thing I would suggest to you is there is an actual traffic committee for the city council, and kind of the procedure for speed limits, stop signs, and things like that, those get brought to those traffic committee meetings. I'm not sure when they meet.
Quarterly.
And so those get brought to those, and then those recommendations and things can get brought to the city council. So that's just, you know, just an FYI. I don't know when the next meeting is, but I would suggest, you know, going to that meeting, and then they can actually bring, you know, if they want to bring that suggestion based upon what the chief says, and they do a traffic study and things like that, those can all be things that are addressed there as well.
Okay.
So, all right,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you. We'll return back to our normal programming, and still on public comment for the ordinance. Any other public comment, and then we'll move back here to council and move on with the rest of our agenda. Hearing none. Council, anything to add on your end before we conclude our public discussion on
Yeah, I'll add something a little bit, just kind of addressing my district's concerns with Zechariah and some of the things that you guys have mentioned. I understand where you're at, with raising costs. I'm in a construction trade, materials costs are rising everywhere. I don't understand fixed income. I run a small business. I have no income if that business doesn't go. I got 6 kids, anywhere from college down to in diapers. I feel you guys. I truly do. One of the things as an insight when I try to get an understanding of these issues is it reasonable? Is it proportionate? Is it necessary? I think we've looked at the data sets today to justify that data set right there. What we're trying to really deliver and what I see is understanding and interpreting cost and value. Okay, so we understand the cost. Understanding the value is a little more difficult because that's different for each and every one of us. But I think with some of you guys, what you expressed is you are seeing a true value in the service, and it is our full intention to bring you that value and have autonomy over our city and control. Because if you don't like us, you can vote us out, but you can't vote out Best Way. And different corporations, they're gonna make their prices raise according to their profit margin and what's beneficial to them, and they serve their company order. We serve you. So those are the big things that we look at with these distinctions. Service to community is huge. I spend countless hours with city council. I give my time to the National Guard, firefighting, Habitat for Humanity, donate things. I feel you guys. And Zachariah, I'm glad that you're here too, to hear this. These data sets, these numbers, money is fungible to a degree, okay? So we can discuss, diving deep, and truly, if you want to learn more, I'd love to have these conversations, sit down and look at the analytics. But there's no gotcha, there's no hiding the ball here. We're not trying to move funds to disenfranchise some other entity. We're not trying to do that. The reality is there is a deficit. That is our objective opinion. That is several intelligence people's analysis with differing opinions, looking at it objectively. And if there's an insight that we've forgotten, please bring that to our attention, and we will address that honestly and objectively. But your compilation to me was you hope that I don't vote that based on simple analytics. But hope is not a strategy. What we have here is a deficit, a program in need, people in need, and services to be provided. And we as council are discretionary for the budget and understanding how those are applied. And it is our fiduciary responsibility to you guys as our constituents to provide the best financial outcome for you. When Henry Ford asked people if he listened to what they said necessarily about improving and innovating a product, they would have asked for a faster horse. He made a car. What we're trying to do here is look at the problem that we have and create this innovation for our city to bring this city into the year that it needs to be and improve the infrastructure. It's objective that the infrastructure is failing. It is objective that we are in a deficit. How we use these capital funds and how we use financial data and our ability to access capital, that's all the art. And so that's what we're trying to decipher and look here. But there is a need, there is a problem, and we're trying to get the best solution. So I hope that brings some clarity to the insights that I derive, and I hope that gives you guys an understanding of how I come to these decision points. Thank you.
Hey, Councilman.
I've had a lot of questions I've received over this, and a lot of them have been on the practical enforcement and implication of this, trash cans, and will the trucks work downtown, and I don't think any of us on this council want to see any of our trash guys hurt. We want them to have as easy of a job, which is still a difficult job, as possible. However, my issues with this proposal are centered around a lack of collaboration, a lack of seeking input from council, short of throwing it to us at a first reading. It's all of a sudden an emergency, but this administration's known about deficits at the transfer station for years now, and so now it's an emergency. Now we have to do this right now. The last update to our rates in 2013, Mayor Welch utilized the new projects committee of the city council at that time. I think the council committees have been severely underutilized over the last 4 years. I would have liked to have seen council more involved with crafting this ordinance update and these rates prior to them coming before everybody. So there's been a lot of question tonight. There's been a lot of input from the public tonight. I would like to see this referred to the new projects committee for further review before being brought back for a final vote, just to ensure everybody has had a chance to give their input. Everybody on council has had an equal opportunity to speak and to collaborate on this. So I would move to refer this to the new projects committee.
There is a motion. Well, let's wait and see if there's a second. There is a motion to refer this to the new projects committee, which I also, I guess I'm assuming, with couched within that motion is a motion to table.
Yes.
Okay. So there's essentially a motion to table and a motion to refer this to the new projects committee. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion dies for lack of a second.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that.
I have a further question regarding this. Well, the motion died, so there's no discussion on it. But there's no discussion on it because the motion died. Mayor Courtney, the motion died, so there's no discussion.
Of this council, I can respond to all motions and conversations, so.
Go for it.
Let me respond to that, and I take it you're upset that we're having to raise the rates, and we don't do this for fun. And Joel, thank you for so eloquently identifying the problem that needs a solution. And it's not a problem that we just found out about, and it's not a problem that we're just now discussing. We've had deficits for years. It's been in the audits. We've met with the State Board of Accounts about this. Last summer, we started the intentional approach to correct the deficits and talked about them then. In December, we passed a resolution, which you voted no on, to fund the deficits so that the transfer station operation could continue. And it was declared an emergency then. Over the last couple of months, we've been compiling the actual rate study and provided more information to you than has ever been provided before any council or council member relative to raising rates on an essential operation. And we did that because it's so important to our community. We follow the process. I have an open door policy. You're welcome to come to my office at any time and share your concerns. We started this process 2.5 weeks ago when the actual rate study was completed and the changes to the ordinance had to be considered. That was placed on the agenda in normal function. You've had a couple of weeks to interact with me and ask questions and also receive information from your consultants. I was hoping that the information we compiled you would have shared. You didn't. I was hoping the information that we shared today and the testimony today would be compelling, and it wasn't. But
how are you saying that the testimony today wasn't compelling?
I have the floor.
Okay.
We want to move forward. Council, thank you for your support, and I believe this moves on to second or third reading.
It remains at second reading now because I still have questions and we've not moved it on yet. And to say that the testimony tonight wasn't compelling, to say that I'm not in favor of this because I'm wanting us to put the brakes on it, take our time, and make sure this is done right is ludicrous. Everybody who is here tonight, everybody who works for the street department, valued your input. We hear you, and I'm not saying that we don't need investment in our transfer station. I use the transfer station all the time. I know how bad it is. I've taken a tour up there with Superintendent Washer. I've seen it. I know what needs to be done up there. I disagree with your approach to the funding. I think I disagree with it, and I would have liked to have seen more collaboration to achieve these numbers here. And moving on from that, the payment in lieu of taxes you're proposing, what will that money be used for?
That money will be contributed to the general fund. Council will appropriate that for a purpose that we ask, and we have a lot of problems across the community that don't have funding sources to solve. So identifying revenue opportunities, albeit minor, I think that's $13,000 over the course of a year, will help us contribute and dedicate. We'll be asking council to appropriate that money for our stormwater master planning. As you know, we have a tremendous problem across our community. We have major flash flooding in the Walnut Street corridor that's repeated, that we're working on. It's going to cost us millions of dollars to abate those issues. We've already spent over $1 million working on the Walnut Street flooding. We just entered into a contract recently to develop a Crooked Creek flood mitigation plan, a stormwater master plan, and a stormwater infrastructure survey. Those take resources. So just like in our water rates, there is an embedded pilot program, and that's also been dedicated to stormwater. So we're trying to identify sources to help us solve other problems without raising fees to address that.
I think that goes back, it's poor accounting, in my opinion. I don't, if we don't need to raise the rates for trash, then we shouldn't raise the rates for trash. That money set aside for a pilot should either be spent on trash or it should be spent on water and not funneled into the general budget. And I still have the floor. I still have the floor, Mr. Mayor. I've voiced okay.
Don't raise your voice.
Don't raise yours to me. And if you let me speak, Mr. Mayor, I could finish this. I could finish what I have to say if you'd let me speak without interrupting.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I voiced my opposition to the pilot with the water project. I'm voicing my opposition to the payment in lieu of taxes for the street sanitation program. And at that, I don't think I can have a reasonable discussion with you any further on this, so I yield the floor.
Okay. I respectfully disagree that we've just now hearing about trash, because we've been hearing about it for over a year. When we raised the rates last year for the people who come and bring their trucks, we started talking about it back then. And we discussed then that we would have to address the curbside prices this year. And I remember making that announcement at a city council meeting, like, right now we're just raising the rates of the people who are hauling it in, but you need to know that down the road, we're going to have to look at that curbside. So I just respectfully disagree with that. I don't feel like it was thrown on us. There have been multiple people in City Hall doing tons of research for months now. And the reason we don't bring it to you is we want to have all of our ducks in a row. We want to have all of our facts together so that we can explain it before we roll it out. The 2020 with the DOC girls, not having them, obviously that was a big blow to us. And then shortly thereafter, in less than a year, Rumpke raised the rates almost 40% on what they charge us to pick it up. So it's kind of like we went bam, bam, and all of a sudden we went from just barely hanging on to, oh my goodness, we're going in the hole. And so for the last couple of years, we've been taking money from other areas. You know, that's probably why we have so many potholes, because we've taken money from here. We've taken money from the Parks Department to pay the TSO. So this is our solution for dealing with that. It's not fun, okay? And I think to explain the emergency behind it that Patrick referred to, we had to borrow $300,000 from the water department to pay the TSO expenses for last year. And that note is due at the end of June. So it is a little bit of an emergency because everything in City Council goes to 3 readings, and that's 6 weeks. So, I mean, we do kind of have a sense of urgency. I would like to make one proposed amendment. Currently, when you bring your trash in trucks to the TSO, we have kind of odd prices like $84.45 or $82.16. So we've come up with a round up, round down kind of thing. If it's less than 50 cents, it'll roll to the number below. And if it's more than 50 cents, it'll roll up so that we can deal with just dollars at the TSO and not have to deal with pennies, nickels, and dimes. So my amendment, and I'll be happy to share with you the old and the new up here,
because it's, a matter of literally pennies, nickels, and dimes, and quarters, is I would like to amend only the transfer station compost yard charges, section 50.27, to reflect the round up or round down according to the 50-cent cutoff.
I'll second that.
Do we need a roll call vote or an aye?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on Councilwoman Krebs' amendment?
I do have a couple things. As I'm looking at the numbers there are a few spots where when we round it, we end up making it cheaper to drop off 500 pounds twice than to drop off 1,000 pounds.
Oh.
So I would propose an amendment to your motion.
Amendment to my amendment? No.
Yes, and you can take that. I got it on my phone if you want to look at that. There are, on 2025, 251 to 500 pounds, I propose changing that to 21. 2026, for 251 to 500, change it to 22. 501 to 1,000, change that to 43. In 2027, Yep.
So which year was the 501 to 1,000?
2026, 501 to 1,000, 43. 2027, starting from 251 to 500, down to 1,001 to 500, it'd be 23, 45, 67. Was that clear? And then the last one, for 251 to 500, 24, followed by 47 and 70. And that gets us out of a place where we're cheaper to drop off the lower rates twice in a row and kind of try to cheat the system. So,
Councilman Schaefer has a motion to amend,
Councilwoman Krebs' motion?
I think what would be easier, frankly, is,
Make a new motion?
no, if you would withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Now, there is a motion on the floor by Councilman Schaefer, to amend the prices as he indicated. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there is a second.
Can you
Is there
pass that
any
along?
further
Carla?
discussion on this proposed amendment?
Personally, I'd rather see us reduce rates at the 1,000-pound tier level by an appropriate amount than raising by up to $2 at the 500-pound rate level going across here.
Is there any other discussion? Anything from the public?
Proposing there to change.
Okay.
Well, if necessary here, so. Sorry, this is just the first I've seen this, so I'm trying to run.
And we're happy to show you these numbers at the end if you want to see them. They're just $1 or $2 different.
So you're taking that to increasing that, but also increasing that. I don't know why we need to increase the 1,000-pound tier. If that's going to 23, why are we taking that to 45?
So he's asking on 2027.
Just for example, yeah.
So that was the way that there's no perverse incentive to drop it off twice in a row at a lower rate.
But why would we increase the 1,000-pound tier to $45? Because by increasing the 500 to 23, it automatically makes a double load less.
I'd have to see the
It'd be 40. We'd be paying. You'd be paying $46 for a double 500-pound load versus 44 at the 1,000 rate.
When you added 24 plus 46, you had to increase the one.
The incentive is $1 gain.
Yeah, well, and the other, sorry, the other way, the way the transfer station works, you don't know what your weight is until you're on your way out, unless you've got a scale at your house. So there's no, once you've dumped your load, you're not going back to pick your load up, pick 500 pounds up out of the compactor, put it back on your truck and take it. I think the rates that Carla and the mayor proposed for transfer station is fine. It just seems like this is unnecessarily complicating things.
We have a motion and a second. Do you want, is the discussion concluded? You want to go to,
Yeah, is there any?
or are
I mean, you know, it's still, even as it was proposed there, it was gonna be cheaper. Even as the mayor proposed it without rounding it one way or the other, in some instances, it would still technically be cheaper to bring two 500-pound loads by cents to, you know, less than $1, but I just feel like this is just continuing to raise rates even more. That we've already, the mayor's already made his case that these rates will get us to where we need to be financially, so I don't know why we need to continue to raise them even higher with this motion.
Withdraw your motion, let's take it.
I'd say we vote on it and let's see.
Yes.
You wanna clarify the motion now?
So, yeah, if you could just run through the numbers for our benefit, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
2025 for 251 to 500, $21. 2026 for 251 to 500, $22. For 501 to 1,000 pounds, $43. Going to 2027, starting with 251 to 500, it's $23, $45, $67. 2028, starting with 251 500, it'd be for $24, $47, $70.
And what'd you say for 2024, the 1,000 to 1,500?
I didn't change
Nothing in
2024.
2024.
Okay, nothing in
That-
2024.
It just, when the rounding occurred, it made for some funny combinations of numbers that
And then
didn't make
anything
sense.
in 2025?
Just 251 to 500, $21.
Okay, all right, so essentially what we have is an amendment to section 50.27, which is dealing with transfer station compost yard charges, and we're talking about a rate change in 2025 from 251 to 500, which is $21.
Joe, technically the motion is to amend,
I'm sorry.
Patrick, I agree with you. It's a distinction without a difference, and honestly, when I use the standpoint, I'm not calculating, I don't have a scale. I go there.
No, you know,
If I was trying to save that dollar, I would lose it in gas, and
Yeah.
time and labor.
You know, and then time you take 540 pounds up, you're paying for, should have thrown on an extra 400 pounds on my load.
All right, so I think what we have is, you have a motion on the floor to approve the rounding aspect
with,
and with
with the
those
adjusted,
those adjustments.
correct.
Okay, and we have a second from Councilman Wilbur.
I have a point of order, a question on this. Can Councilman Wilbur vote on this as it's a rate increase and he's attending remotely?
This is not the final reading.
I don't know
It's
though.
only for the final reading that's allowed against the rules.
That's a fair question, a little bit of the nuance from the, not being able to attend. I think it's a fair call, and I thought we had somebody else seconding it.
We're not approving the rate changes.
I know, but let's just, do we have another second? Oh, okay. Cause we're
So
not.
if that's the case, Joe, I can't,
Yeah, I'm trying to
I
think
can't
through this,
vote
'cause that's just a little bit of a new thing.
all right.
Okay.
We're not voting on the rates. That'll happen at the third reading.
It would happen at 30. I believe he is okay to do so.
It's supposed to be on budget issues I'm not allowed to vote on.
I think rates are included on that, but, you know, this is an amendment to a proposed rate, and the final vote will have not taken place. So I'm gonna say at this juncture, you're okay.
Would that,
To second that.
would that also apply to him voting yea or nay on it?
I think you could vote on the amendment,
Okay.
because it's not a final vote. Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the rounding and the proposed rate changes, to the rounding proposed by Councilman Schaefer, as he described. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on that amendment.
Josh Wilbur,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Storm,
No.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Krebs,
No.
and Tevenall.
No.
Now it's your turn to remotion.
Okay, so I'll make my original motion. I'm so sorry, you guys. Section 50.27, that we would take the round up and round down numbers proposed.
I'll second.
All right, now we have a motion and a second
Democracy in action.
to do away with, to essentially go with the rounding as proposed
Originally.
and, do away with Councilman Schaefer's, math. So, is there a second, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
I think we have a second, so all, do a roll call vote, please, unless there's any comments, and I hope not.
No, please.
All right, roll call vote.
Second amendment. Josh Wilbur,
No.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Storm,
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think about this. Can you restate this? I voted no because I'm not trying to bump up the extra dollars.
We're back to Carlos.
So we're back to Carlos, which is actually, everybody has this.
It would be a
Right.
round up or round down of the existing
It
rate.
would be based
Okay,
upon this,
yes.
this table.
Yeah, yeah.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Krebs,
Yes.
Tevenall.
Yes.
Did you get everybody? All right, so it passed 1, 2, 3, 5 to 1.
Yes, it did.
All right, anything else on trash?
Is the mayor gonna read off the emails and answer the question?
No, I was gonna respond to the emails.
I think you're gonna read them off tonight, that's why you're gonna email you. Then I need to speak, right?
You're welcome to. Yep.
Can you go through my emails
I was
Answer.
gonna respond to the emails.
and answer them tonight?
I was gonna respond to the emails as
I
soon
would
as
like for you to
possible.
answer them tonight, that's what the whole purpose I came for, was you to answer the emails, because the last meeting I was at, you said to email you, and you would answer the
And
questions.
I'm responding to all the emails. We've had
I want you
over
to
an
answer them here in
hour.
the meeting, please.
We've had over an hour of, or an hour and a half of public testimony. I promise you I will respond to your emails.
Okay, we'll go through them here. All right.
And I'm assuming.
Do we have
I
a
should-
long-term plan study beyond 2028?
What was your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Bud Tevenall, live on Hilltop.
What's your address, bud?
Do I need to state that?
Yes,
For what reason?
because it's included in the minutes.
Including the minutes, and, well, we'd like to know our constituents who are
I
responding to.
really don't want everybody to know where I live. If they want to, they can look it up. I live on the Hilltop. Do we have a long-term plan study beyond 2028?
I've provided what you've seen is what I provided, and that's a 5-year plan.
Okay. Next one. You answered a lot of them tonight, or you answered a lot of them already through the email you sent out. I'd like to have council to consider maybe having a possible spring and summer or fall trash day that's allow people to throw out other stuff in just one trash can and have a cleanup, clean up the city, clean up your garage, clean out your stuff you need to get rid of that doesn't fit in the can, that you don't have a truck to go to the dump. I'd like for you to consider that, as to help keep things clean.
And just so you
Not
know,
people dumped out.
council was shared with all the questions I received, and many of them were just today.
I know, but the problem I have with you,
shared with
Mayor, is
council.
you said at the last meeting you were gonna answer them at this meeting.
I asked you to email your
I
questions.
emailed
and we
my
would
questions to
respond
you,
them.
and you were gonna respond
We
to
would
them at
respond
this meeting.
Sir, we've had an hour and a half.
I don't
of
care how long
Q-
it takes, that's what you guys work for us, correct?
Well,
I would
please
like to have my emails answered, and you refuse to do that.
I'm not refusing. I just said I will do them.
In front of
And you're-
everybody, maybe it may be my questions.
Well, you have the floor.
Everybody wanted
You
to
have
ask.
the floor. Please express yourself.
Smaller trash cans were answered, the eliminating jobs were answered. If the trash can is stolen, is that my responsibility?
The city will provide one container, and yes, if it is stolen, like any other stolen property, it would be your responsibility.
Did you mention if they had serial numbers on them so we can record those?
Yes, they will have serial numbers on them.
Okay. Are we allowed to paint our house numbers on them or anything like that? Are they ours to keep, basically, when we deface them with
They will go with that property, so, I'll have to think about that.
It will go with the property. If I sell the property, the trash can stays with the property?
It should stay with, it should stay with that address. If you could return it, I'm still working out the operational details of that. You've asked a good question.
All right, those were my questions I had, and the other emails you got in there. I do feel like as a citizen, that this was kind of thrown at us pretty quick. And, I think more study should have been done with the council. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. So I think we have moved trash on to the third reading. So now we're on the miscellaneous and go with public comments.
There's no miscellaneous. We have had a long and lengthy meeting with lots of public testimony. If there's anybody here that has something brief to mention, we can keep public comment open. Otherwise, I would ask us to move on and conclude tonight's agenda. Raise that for the next meeting.
So sorry to be the person that's.
Could you turn your mic on, please?
Oh, I don't know how to do that. Yep, I got it. Okay, Julie Patterson, sorry to keep everybody, but this is the last council meeting I'm seeing before Black History Month ends, is that correct? If it's not, I'll come back. There's not another February.
Next meeting's
Okay.
March the 5th.
Okay, so since this is the last council meeting before Black History Month ends, I was wondering if there was an update about the naming of the park on Poplar and Vaughn Drive?
No.
Okay.
Construction continues, and at Board of Public Works today, we approved changing the alley that is adjacent to the park to pedestrian only, so, but bus is
But not to
ordered.
the naming?
No, nothing regarding.
Okay. So I just wanted to put it out there that I really appreciated your post asking for input. I didn't know if you'd had a chance to do the tally, but I was gonna just say it here. There's 8 people who are for keeping it Costigan, I'm not sure the exact name, but naming it after Costigan. There's 11 people who are for naming it after Dave Baptiste, who we have the bust for. There's 8 people who want to name it after both men, and 64 people talked about some neutral name, maybe Legacy, Freedom, Unity, Founders, or Pinnacle. And then there were 2 votes for Courtney Commons and 2 votes for something named after Damon Welch. I just wanted that to be put on the public record, and then also say that I think we're missing an opportunity to change the name right now during Black History Month.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Our next meeting will be March the 5th. I do want to make one remark before we conclude, and that is the Paul Broom Grant Program, that's a part of our PACE program, is active, and we're accepting applications for that. That is for low to moderate income households where there's no match required for the PACE program. So that is to help continue our preservation efforts for downtown contributing properties. Jim, you can add something if you like, because you're on the PACE committee. I appreciate your service there.
at this stage of the game, I'm still learning the requirements for this grant, but this will allow folks who otherwise would not be able to financially apply for a grant for fixing the exterior of their home in the historic district. This would allow those folks, in many cases, to be able to make those improvements. And that's the point of this grant. It is federally provided, and so the requirements came down from Uncle Sam. They've been working on this for a number of months, getting the requirements that we can apply locally to match what Uncle Sam was willing to accept. And this program is now available, again, in the historic district, and applications are currently being accepted. Now, there will be meetings where the grant applications will be heard, and there'll be a process for those applications to be approved and moved forward.
Good program. It took about a year and a half to get that in place through the National Park Service, and it's going to do some good across our community. Council, anything else to add before we close for the night? Thanks everybody for being here.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Good job, Patrick.